Hansen followed the bugs, and before long, they came to a valley that was shaped like a gourd. The bugs were like a tide, flowing into the valley. Because the bugs were everywhere, their presence veiled and marred the entire area. Hansen could not see what lay beneath them. You and Little Wind wait here. I'm going to advance and take a closer look. Hansen pointed at the valley. Again, just be careful, Qing-Ming said. Hansen cast arrow to fly up the side of the valley, away from the bugs. Hansen wanted to see what the bugs were doing in the valley all by themselves. Are there any high-level genofruits maturing, perhaps? As Hansen thought, he pushed his head forward and squinted his eyes to get a better look. Hansen caught sight of a meadow of rose-like plants. They were deep red in color, and they were beautiful. The bugs were all headed for them. But outside the field of flowers, there were many cracks in the earth, and dead bodies lay scattered and strewn across the area. It was like a river of dead bugs. Still, the bugs seemed determined to head there. It was unclear what was damaging the bugs, but they unceasingly marched forward to their demise. The bugs that had died leaked a strange water. I wonder what level those plants are. They seem to be drawing all those bugs there to die. Hansen was shocked, watching the roses on their murder spree. Hansen then saw a human-like shadow inside the rose bushes, but he could not discern many details. He wasn't quite sure who that person was. Hansen didn't want to remain out of the know, however, and he was curious who the person was and what they were doing. To discover this, he changed his position. But there were too many roses, and they obscured the figure from every angle Hansen could look from. There was one further detail Hansen noticed, however. It wasn't the roses themselves that compelled the bugs to go there and die. Hansen saw that there were many candles placed around the roses. They were scented candles, and they seemed to be what was attracting the bugs, like a pheromone. And Hansen noticed that the cracks in the ground, many of which were filled with the corpses of the bugs, were half man-made and half natural. Hansen thought this was the tricky work of someone, a person devoted to slaying those bugs. Is that a human or a spirit? Or maybe even a humanoid creature? Hansen was eager to find out who or what that shadowy figure was. But from his current position, Hansen could not tell. He'd have to get closer, and Dongshuan aura and his eighth sense did not have a sufficient range to clarify things for him either. If the man inside used candles to attract and kill the bugs, he'd have no choice but to unveil himself when he came out to change them. Patiently, Hansen waited until the candles burnt out. When the light of the candles went out and the smell they released began to fade, the iron bugs snapped out from their daze and stopped pressing into the valley that had killed so many of them. Many of them began to leave, returning to Thorn Forest. I don't think this person is going to reveal himself. Hansen frowned. If the person did not come out, then Hansen wasn't going to go in either. Whoever was in there had to be very powerful to gather the resources to attract so many creatures there to die. But just as Hansen prepared to return to Qilangzi, that changed. Quickly, Hansen scrambled back down to peer at the roses. He watched a person emerge from them, and when he saw the person's face, his jaw hit the deck. A blonde, purple-eyed woman emerged from beneath the green bushes that cradled the red roses. She didn't quite look human, and an emerald was embedded in her forehead. It was a beautiful female spirit. Hansen was not surprised, but something in particular made him almost leap backwards in shock. The woman was not wearing any clothes. When she stood up, the fine curve of her booty and how it led all the way down her long legs was a sudden, tantalizing sight. Hansen's nose was getting hot with a coming nosebleed. Her big breast and slim waist made her look as if she was straight out of a waifu manga. Humans could not possess such a body shape. Although the image described might sound ridiculous, she looked natural. When she emerged from the bushes, she looked cold. And the moment she stepped out, the flowers writhed their way around her to form an armor. She was like a queen of gardens. She approached the cracks in the earth and removed a rose from her garment of flowers. She snapped the stalk in two and set them alight. After this, Hansen realized that it was the stalks of the flowers that were serving as candles. The stalks caught on fire quickly, and as they burned, a strange fragrance began to emanate. Hansen thought the bugs would end up returning, but they did not. Hansen thought it was odd, and he pondered why the iron bugs did not follow the fragrance as they had previously. The spirit merely watched the stalk of the flower burn, facing the valley's entrance. Not long after, Hansen heard a weird noise from someplace else in the valley. Something was flying towards them quickly, and it went for the candle like an arrow. It was an iron bug. It was a little smaller, but it was darker than the rest. Its shell was black like obsidian. This bug had grown wings, and it flew extraordinarily fast, completely unlike the others. This iron bug landed on the stalk and bit into it with a look of exuberant joy on its face. The spirit took a step back and merely observed the creature nibbling at the stalk. It didn't seem as if she wanted to fight it. If the spirit wants to claim that bug, then why doesn't she? Is the stalk poisonous, maybe? Right then would have been a perfect time to strike, but the spirit withheld any such action. She merely continued to watch the bug merrily munch on its meal. As Hansen pondered this, he heard something else come from further down the valley. It was a centipede, one that was entirely red. It ran past the cracks and came for one of the stalks. The spirit had placed down many stalks prior to this, and thus, there was no conflict. The creatures each had their own. Not long after, many more bugs arrived. They were of varying shapes and colors. Some were black, some were red, and some were green. The other bugs had come to feed on the stalks as well. But before long, there were no stalks left, and a fight amongst the bugs started to erupt. The red centipede was wreathed in flame, and it started to fight a bug with a green shell and 8 legs. The red centipede had the ability to spit fire, but it did not deter the green spider. Without fear, it skittered towards its many-footed foe. Within seconds, chaos reigned. All the bugs were fighting between each other, none willing to leave the area. The spirit continued to watch the fight, devoid of all emotion. Are those stalks stimulants? Hansen froze, seeing this. The powers the bugs were unleashing against each other were horrible, something he figured only mutant-class monsters could do. The spirit had played all those mutant-class bugs like a fiddle. Hansen knew he had to treat that spirit with great caution. The bugs were out of control. Severed limbs and dead bodies lay scattered and strewn across the area, as they attacked each other with wild ferocity. Watching so many insects die in such a fashion was a terrible sight. When the battle was over, only the initial iron bug remained alive. A few of its claws had been broken, but that did not prevent it from dining on the leftovers of the battlefield. As the bug dined on the bodies, its own body began to undergo a change. Its lost limbs recovered. Colored dots peppered its all-black shell, and it seemed to have even obtained the centipede's flame and spider's green light. Hansen saw the bug claim all those powers for itself and was taken aback. The iron bug's shell cracked, and something seemed to emerge from inside its body. The newborn iron bug was white. Its body shone like jade, its eyes were red, and its wings were translucent. The spirit frowned as she thought to herself. The results were beyond her expectations. The iron bug was the weakest mutant bug, and yet it had somehow survived. The spirit looked over the iron bug, which now seemed to resemble white jade. Then, she presented a box to the bug, one that had been crafted from vines. A bug emerged from the box. Eat this berserk iron bug before you. If you do, you, my blue crystal bud, will be able to become a sacred blood creature, the spirit said to the bug as she let it out of the box. Then, Blue Crystal Bud crawled over to the iron bug. Wherever the blue crystal bug writhed, a vibrant scorch mark was left in its wake. It looked poisonous. When Hansen heard the spirit speak, he thought to himself, this spirit must have done a lot to ensure the evolution of this creature of hers. She used mutant bugs to create a berserk mutant bug, so she could then feed it to the blue crystal bug. Wow, perhaps she will succeed. The iron bug opened its mouth wide, exceeding all expectations. Its insectoid mouth became a gaping maw decorated with countless serrated teeth. The iron bug was actually the one that ate the blue crystal bug. No one had expected this to happen, and even the spirit was caught off guard. The spirit lashed her rose whip at the iron bug. The bug didn't attempt to evade, however, it merely closed its shell and withstood the entire attack effortlessly. Hansen knew how much power was in her whiplash, and it was a terrifying amount. The whip had to be a mutant class at least, and it was far stronger than what he and Little Wind could deal with. Yet despite that, the whip could not damage the iron bug at all. But then, curiously, the iron bug's shell broke again, and it started glowing blue. It was evolving once again. It's evolving into a sacred blood. The spirit's face changed as she spoke aloud. In haste, she quickly hammered the white shell of the bug to break it. From inside the white shell, a green iron bug came out. It looked like jade. Without hesitation, the spirit continued to lash it with her whip. She wanted to damage the iron bug before it completed its new process of evolution. When it finished evolving into a sacred blood creature, the spirit would not be able to fight it. The whip was like a fearsome snake, lashing out at the iron bug. But then, a green flame burst forth from the iron bug and enveloped the whip. It wasn't exactly like fire, though. It was more like a corrosive substance that moved under conscious control. It was like a flame composed of liquid acid. And against this, the whip stood no chance. The spirit's weapon quickly corroded into a toxic-smelling puddle of goop. The spirit dropped the whip, not wanting the acid to touch her body. Then she used a stalk's thorn to pierce her skin and allow the rose to absorb her blood. As the rose absorbed the spirit's blood, the rose suddenly let out a powerful fragrance. It was so strong, it could literally be seen as a mystic haze. The iron bug smelled the flower and was hypnotized. Without resistance, it began crawling over towards the rose. The spirit suddenly summoned a red dagger, and when the green iron bug came closer, she stabbed it in its mouth with the power and speed of a sudden flash of lightning. Boom! The iron bug snapped out of its daze as the dagger lodged in its mouth. Its anger was unleashed, and it squirted its corrosive liquid all around it. The ground and soil all around were ruined, and when it was done, the iron bug launched itself towards the spirit. But the spirit was quick to fall back. She tried using her rose bushes to trap the bug and stop its advance, but the iron bug had become a sacred blood creature, and the attacks it unleashed were frighteningly powerful. The rose vines lashed the iron bug by themselves, but it was all to no avail. The spirit's face changed, but she did not look scared. Instead of a weapon, she summoned a shield this time. With it, she tried to deflect the charging bug. She propped the heavy great shield up against the frenzied bug. The force of the bug was so strong it knocked the spirit a good distance back and smashed her into a wall. The iron bug's mouth had bled slowly ever since the oral strike. Hansen was able to watch its life force slowly drain around the knife in its mouth. Still, that did not allay the bug's desire to chase after the spirit that had inflicted such damage upon it. But the spirit knew she had injured it, and she knew victory would only be a matter of time because of it. As the two continued to fight, Hansen decided to sneak into the valley. He wanted to steal the kill from the spirit, as it was a sacred blood creature. He believed this was an opportunity from God, as God only knew how long it would take for him to reliably be able to take down sacred blood creatures on his own. The spirit was sent flying away like a cannonball. She struck a craggy cliffside as a fire claimed her chest. Although the spirit was quickly able to douse the fire, the iron bug was already nearly upon her once again. Its target was her chest once more. The spirit was unable to do anything, and she was now helpless against the iron bug that was hungry for her heart. Although the spirit would not truly die, she still looked shocked and surprised, and even fearful, for this misfortune that was to fall upon her. But just as the spirit's hope of victory was depleted, a white shadow appeared from the nether. A pretty man, with the presence of a god, appeared behind the iron bug. The spirit's eyes, which were nearing closure in anticipation of a defeat, opened wide with sudden surprise. She looked upon the bright light, not knowing what it was, where it had come from, or why it had appeared. Boom! The god-looking man's fist crackled and popped with the charge of electricity, and like a sun, it collided with the back of the iron bug. The dagger was pushed through the bug's throat and into its body. Where 2 inches of the dagger's blade had been visible, now there remained none. The entire blade and handle had been driven into the body of the iron bug. Sacred blood creature iron bug king killed. Beast soul gained. Consume its flesh to gain 0 to 10 sacred geno points randomly. Hansen was thrilled. He grabbed the iron bug's body and the dagger that was still within, and in the blinding light he had appeared with, he disappeared in a flash without a trace. From his sudden appearance behind the bug, the subsequent punch, the use of the dagger, and the even faster escape, the entire event occurred in the time frame of about 2 or 3 seconds. Before the spirit could even react, Hansen had already left the valley. She wouldn't be able to find him. As he traveled, Hansen's Super King spirit soon ran out and his body returned to normal. He didn't dare slow down though. He pushed on and went as far as he could, lest the spirit seek him out. Hansen found Qing-Ming and Little Wind hiding in the midst of some thickets. He led them away from the area, in a direction that would take them out of Thorn Forest. The last thing Hansen wanted was a disgruntled spirit on his tail. Hansen could not be a Super King spirit for long, and even if he used it again to defeat the spirit, she wouldn't die. Upon her respawn, she'd only hate him more, and it would be unwise for him to make any more enemies than he had to. If Hansen had revealed his true face when he killed the bug, the spirit would have assuredly remembered the face of her savior. Seeing Hansen disappear as quickly as he appeared, the spirit's face wore a confused expression. She turned to peer in the direction Hansen fled to. Who was that spirit? The spirit seemed bewildered. She was not angered or annoyed by what had occurred. She wasn't mad at Hansen's theft of the iron bug kill, nor his claiming of the body and the dagger she had used. Her face was merely one that masked complicated thoughts. They arrived back at Qing-Ming shelter without trouble. But when they returned home, they could not find Qing-Ming. The yard was in disarray, and in Hansen's time away, he had been unable to feed the tree the water drops he had been giving it. The tree was now yellow, and it was beginning to look like the dead tree it had been. When they were unable to find Qing-Ming, Qulongji looked terrible. Her thoughts roamed over what might have occurred during her absence. Unknown to them, Qing-Ming Knight had grown furious upon learning of the tree's death. At the gate of the shelter, Qing-Ming was strung up. He had been slashed 300 times to a state near death, and still he remained hanging. Hansen and Qulongji spared no time in running to Qing-Ming shelter. There, they saw Qing-Ming hanging from above the gate. His body was caked in dried blood, and other wounds oozed without healing. He looked to be dying. Hansen was quickly brought to anger. Humans were treated as little more than free-range slaves in the third god's shelter, and any little mistake was met with wicked, brutal punishments. If Hansen had not have revived the tree in the first place, though, Qing-Ming would not have suffered this treatment. Qing-Ming didn't deserve any of this. Qulongji was not calm by any means either. In great anger, she tried to take Qing-Ming down from where he hung. Hansen, not blinded by the need to save Qing-Ming at an ill cost to themselves, quickly stopped Qulongji. He brought her to a place where they would not be immediately spotted. Don't be reckless. You can't save Qing-Ming if it means getting yourself in trouble, Hansen told Qulongji as he held her in his arms. I can't watch him slowly succumb to death, not while I can still do something. Qulongji pleaded, her voice pained. I know, I do not plan on letting him die either. Hansen paused briefly and then said, It's just that now is not the time. You both signed a contract, didn't you? Even if you save him now, you are still property of Qing-Ming. Your lives are forfeit to him, and it is by his whim you can both be killed. Then what do we do? Kulongshi asked. We slip into the spirit hall and take the spirit stone. It is the only way you can be free from Qing-Ming Night. Hansen's eyes gleamed with a murder as he spoke. Are you saying we claim the spirit shelter? Is that something we can do? Is such a thing possible? Qulongji looked at Hansen with hopeful eyes, but still doubted the possibility of what he had claimed. While they spoke, a spirit wielding a whip appeared. He walked in front of Qu-Ming and struck his naked, battered body. Qu-Ming's skin was dealt another lash, forming another lesion across his bloody body. Although he was on the precipice of death, Qu-Ming was still able to scream loudly. The spirit did not speak, and he continued to callously whip his suffering servant. With each frightening whip, the screams of agony from Qu-Ming became quieter and quieter. Qulongji gnawed at her lips nervously, almost to the point of bleeding. Back in the cabin, Hansen looked at the dying dragon blood tree. With his analysis, he was able to determine that it was indeed alive, but only faintly. He pulled out his blood-colored dagger and tried to unearth the roots. He wanted to see if he could move it, for he did not want to leave it where it was. It would still require a dozen years to grow, so it would require about 12 more water drops. Using a cloth, Hansen wrapped up the tree roots and gave them a water drop. Then, he placed the entire tree on the back of Golden Growler. He was not afraid of Qing-Ming Night, and it would not be difficult for Hansen to take down Qing-Ming's shelter. But Hansen could not deal with the royal-class thorn shelter. As such, he could only hope to hide deep within the tangled boughs of Thorn Forest once his planned deed was done. After seeing how powerful the female spirit was, he knew he could only fight royal spirits with Super King Spirit Mode active, but its duration was far too short. Hansen and Qulangzi prepared for their grueling task ahead, and he told her, "You wait near the gate. When I draw the spirits and creatures deeper into the shelter, that will give you the time you need to free Qu-Ming and bring him to Thorn Forest. Just one thing, can we really do this? Do we have what it takes?" Qulangshi looked worried. She was very nervous, but Hansen couldn't blame her. After all, they were on the precipice of taking down a spirit shelter. Even though Hansen was stronger than normal surpassers, he was alone. "Yes, we do. Believe in me." Hansen saw how nervous she was getting, and so he told her this with a voice of assurance. They trekked back near Qing-Ming's shelter, and Hansen gestured for her to stay back a little. "You have to come back alive," Qulongshi pleaded as she nibbled her lips. Hansen smiled and entered the shelter. With Hansen's power, even without his Super King Spirit Mode, he'd be just as strong as Qing-Ming Night. The only problem would be that Hansen only had one gene lock open. And with so many creatures and other spirits around, Hansen knew he could not claim the shelter in his current state. But fortune had smiled on him, and he had a couple of things in his possession to help even the odds. After Hansen entered the shelter, he went straight for the Spirit Hall. The Spirit Hall's defenses were tough. In the plaza were 10 ordinary creatures, and 2 night-class spirits stood outside the Spirit Hall itself, guarding. A black tiger was quick to catch sight of the approaching intruder, and so it growled at him in warning. Hansen looked at the tiger and smiled. In the next second, he was clad in summoned armor and wielding a red dagger. Hansen swung his dagger towards the tiger's neck. Instantly, the tiger's decapitated head was sent barreling through the air as blood squirted from the severed throat. In the next second, the body crumpled to the ground. The creatures saw Hansen run inside the plaza, and in unison, they all roared and began sprinting towards him. From every direction, they came at him. A vast array of different elemental powers swirled around and charged the atmosphere with an exciting volatility. Boom. Following an explosion that was a mixture of various elements, a giant crater was left in the plaza's floor. Rocks were scattered and strewn all about as plumes of dust clogged the air and choked the sight of all who were there. As the 2 spirits guarded the gate, they smiled merrily. For once, they could witness something exciting. And indeed it was, for they viewed Hansen's attack as they would the performance of a clown in a carnival. No human had tried to attack Qing-Ming's shelter before, so it was a funny spectacle. But in the next second, from within the veiling dust, the shadow of a human flickered by each creature. Acknowledging that their initial attacks had failed, they all activated their gene-lock powers. Amidst the chaos, Hansen was still sprinting and not even taking the time to dodge. Another stream of blood flashed through the air as an ordinary creature slumped down to the ruined ground. Hansen moved like a killing machine amidst the creatures. Like livestock, each creature was mercilessly slaughtered by Hansen. The faces of the creatures and spirits that were around all changed. As for the 2 guards of the Spirit Hall, they were frozen. No longer were they amused. Now they felt fear. Multiple powerful creatures had each been killed with a single strike, none being given the chance to fight back. Qing-Ming Night had already felt it when the first creature had been killed. He frowned and wanted to go take a look at the intruder himself. But soon after stepping forward, he felt another one of his creatures perish. He was surprised. But then, his face completely changed. One after another, he felt each of his creatures be slain. How is this possible? Has someone powerful come to my shelter? Only royal spirits or mutant creatures could do such a thing, and this was something he could not establish an appropriate defense against. But his shelter was primarily ruled over by Thorn Shelter. They should have attacked Thorn Shelter, not this place. Qing-Ming Knight sped up his approach as his desire to take a look at what was going on increased. But as he neared the door, it was kicked open with tremendous force. Two shadows flew inside, which made Qing-Ming Knight's sphincter tighten. They were the night spirits tasked with guarding the spirit hall. Their throats had been slit open, and they were thrown through the door, dead before they even hit the ground. When the attacker entered from beyond that door, Qing-Ming Knight was surprised. He said, "Human." Humans and spirits were different. Qing-Ming Knight could tell his intruder was a human, despite being entirely clad in armor with his appearance masked. Qing-Ming Knight could not think straight right now. There weren't many humans in the vicinity, and there were only 5 in Thorn Shelter in total. But now, someone had just infiltrated his spirit hall. "Announce yourself, you vermin, he who has dared trespass within my spirit hall." "I'm the guy that has come to kill you," Han Sen coldly responded. He used arrow, and he flew towards Qing-Ming Knight like a rainbow. "You fool." Qing-Ming Knight noticed how low Han Sen's speed and strength were, so he raised his green light spear and dashed forward to engage with his aggressor. The green spear collided with the red dagger to a shocking result. The green spear was knocked away. The dagger and Han Sen moved like a descending rainbow, one that would touch down at Qing-Ming's heart. The dagger was too powerful. Qing-Ming Knight was an elite that had opened 4 of his gene locks. In the nick of time, he was able to just about dodge Han Sen's airborne strike and retaliate with a fist of his own. The green light that enshrouded his fist was like a mystic hellfire, and it guided the fist to a direct hit on Han Sen's forehead. Qing-Ming Knight coldly laughed in reaction, and thought to himself, "It does not matter how sharp or how powerful your dagger is, nothing can overcome my green light." When the green light came into contact with Han Sen, it was like glass being thrown against steel. The helmet did not break, and it pushed through the light without even slowing down. "Impossible." Qing-Ming's eyes opened wide as he gargled the words out. Blood choked his tongue as the dagger sliced through his throat. He was decapitated, and his head dropped to the ground like a stone. Not stopping for 1 second, Han Sen raced towards the statue in the spirit hall and grabbed the spirit stone from the stone sculpture's forehead. Outside the hall, many creatures and spirits came forward to witness who they believed to be their new ruler. They stepped into the spirit hall and quickly crowded it. There they all saw Han Sen taking the spirit stone. Boom! The green spirit stone turned into a bright and horrible green light. Qing-Ming reluctantly appeared out of the spirit stone and knelt before Han Sen, before all the creatures and spirits in the hall to make a vow. "I, Qing-Ming Knight, am willing to submit and offer absolute loyalty to a new master. I can become the most faithful of servants." All the creatures froze in place, staring at the day's most unexpected spectacle. The owner of Qing-Ming Shelter, the spirit they had always served, was kneeling to pledge obedience to a human. And there was no ulterior scheme or ploy, it was happening for real. The contracts that each creature, spirit, and human had signed with Qing-Ming Knight were broken at that instant. They were each and all free. He had been claimed, and the marks he had given them all vanished. Chu Longxi, back on the outside, was bringing Chu Ming and Golden Growler to Thorn Forest. When she felt the mark break, she burst into tears of joy. "He did it!" Kulangxi wiped away the tears that came. Not only was she happy for Han Sen's victory and exacted vengeance, she was happy to have reclaimed her freedom. In the spirit hall, Han Sen walked forward with Qing-Ming Knight. As he moved forward, others stepped to the side. Like a parting of the seas, every living thing in the hall moved aside to create a way for him. Qing-Ming Knight had been claimed, their master had been defeated, and so they were not willing to fight Han Sen anymore. The moment Han Sen claimed Qing-Ming Knight, a spirit sent word to Thorn Shelter over what had occurred. A human has claimed Qing-Ming Knight, and a vow was sworn. Inside Thorn Shelter, a cold-looking female spirit frowned. If Han Sen was there, he'd have been surprised. The master of Thorn Shelter was the very same spirit he saw in the valley. It was the female spirit that used bugs to create sacred blood creatures. All the spirits and creatures looked angry, the former even more so. To spirits, swearing loyalty to a human was widely regarded as humiliating. "Baron, allow me to go kill that human and the traitorous scum." A handsome spirit stepped forward and pleaded his desire. "Baron, allow me too." Another few spirits stood up and walked forward, each wanting to go to Qing-Ming Shelter and slay the human that was there and Qing-Ming Knight. "Baron, I will go to the forest and slay them," the handsome spirit said. "Take the dark turtle. It will help you find them," Thorn Baron told the handsome spirit. The handsome spirit looked pleased, and he turned around to say, "Thank you very much." He knew the dark turtle had strong senses, so locating the human would not be difficult even in those rotten reaches. Han Sen rode Little Wind, and before long, caught up with Q Langxi. Together, they ventured into Thorn Forest. Not long after entering, Kuo Longzi masked their scent to keep them safe on their passage through the darkness of that forest. They did not dare traverse the deeper recesses of Thorn Forest, but they thought they could find a safe location somewhere beneath those trees. Thorn Forest was an incredibly large woodland. They went in a different direction than they had gone when they followed the bugs, but after 50 miles of travel, they were still unable to find a place to hide. They did, however, stumble upon a most powerful and most mighty tree. Its life force was almost as strong as the Iron Bud King's. Seeing this tall, lonely tree from afar, Hansen frowned. The tree possessed a grand life force, but there was nothing else alive in its proximity. There were no creatures near it, so Hansen thought it was a little strange. It was not an ordinary genoplant, that was for sure. If Hansen could sense its presence from a dozen miles away, why would no other living creatures desire to be around it? Let's rest here and tend to Qing-Ming's wounds. Hansen believed there was something wrong in the direction they were headed. So, he decided to take a break. Carefully lifting Qing-Ming off of Golden Growler's back, Hansen got to work on healing the beaten man with his holy light. Qing-Ming had been severely injured, but the damage he had suffered was not critical. After an hour of this healing, Qing-Ming was fully recovered. Langxi, why would you rescue me? We signed a contract with Qing-Ming Knight. You can be killed for this disobedience. Qing-Ming woke up and immediately noticed his presence in Thorn Forest. You mean this guy? Hansen summoned Qing-Ming Knight. Qing-Ming was given a jump scare and immediately started stepping backwards. With wide eyes, he asked, what in the sanctuaries happened? What happened? Me, that's what happened. Qing-Ming Knight now belongs to me, Hansen said. Are you pulling my leg? How is that possible? Qing-Ming looked at Qing-Ming Knight, unsure whether or not he had slipped into a twisted dream of sorts. Hansen and Qulangji then relayed the entire tale of what had occurred to Qing-Ming, who seemed to struggle with believing its authenticity. The three of them continued to rest, and Hansen decided to prepare a meal for them. He retrieved one of the tree crabs he had hunted and started to cook it. This surprised Qing-Ming once again. The three of them, after filling their bellies, decided to get some shut-eye while Little Wind remained on guard. With Hansen's latest pet there, they didn't have to worry about getting attacked without warning. After midnight, Little Wind suddenly howled. Roused from their slumber, they all jolted up to look about for whatever was coming. But strangely, there was nothing to be seen. Little Wind was only a creature, so they couldn't ask it what had caused the unrest. They poked about the area for a bit, but were unable to discern the problem. Furthermore, Little Wind had gone back to being quiet as well. Just in case something happened, Hansen decided to remain awake and stay on watch, allowing the other two to sleep and rest up. Nothing ill befell them that night, and when the sun rose the next day, they all merrily packed their gear and discussed where their ultimate destination should be. Qing-Ming, as he scanned the area, suddenly screamed aloud. What's wrong? Hansen looked around and noticed something amiss. Haven't we walked about 50 miles to get to this point? Qing-Ming noticed swaths of massive thorns tangled with the trees ahead. I'm fairly sure those thorny vines weren't there last night. Qulangxi was shocked, and she looked around to see what else might have appeared. On the previous day, they had walked through what seemed to be a gentle forest. What they now saw ahead of them was a wretched tangle of thorny vines that weaved their way through the trees around them. If they were indeed in the borderlands of the forest, nothing like this should have been close to them. Is it because of that giant tree? Qing-Ming pointed at it. No way, it's just a tree. Are you suggesting it has teleported us deeper into the forest or something? Qulangxi said. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss the next chapter.